Hello, everyone. Today I'm here with a very, very special guest, Miss Pope. Miss Mary Pope is currently the technical assistant to Miss Lisa Callahan, the Vice President and General Manager of Lockheed Martin Commercial Civil Space, CCS. In this role, she manages the CCS business rhythm and information flow through Lockheed Martin leadership, runs an early career development team, and works on multiple assignments supporting the leadership team. Prior to her current role, she was a senior propulsion engineer on the Orion program, where she was responsible for the development, testing, and delivery of multiple propulsion components for both the Orion Crew module and the European Service module. She graduated from Lehigh University in Bethlehem, PA, with a BS in bioengineering with mechanical engineering focus in 2011. Growing up in Huntsville, Alabama, the daughter of the two engineers who met on NASA's return to flight program after the Challenger accident, she has been passionate and curious about human space exploration all of her life. During our conversation, Ms. Pope will discuss her journey leading to who she is today. So thank you so much. Welcome, Ms. Pope. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule to talk to us today.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah. So my first question, kind of before we get into the more details of your journey and knowing that you started liking space from such a young age, can you describe like a typical day at your work? Like, I know it's a little different now because everything is virtual, but how does it usually work?
Sure. So a typical day for me, it kind of depends on when in the calendar year we're at. So right now we're at the end of the quarter, and so we're doing a lot of business area reviews of all of our programs and then reporting that up. And so I would say a typical day this week, there's a lot of meetings where I'm supporting the senior leadership team. I'm shadowing Lisa. I'm in a development program or rotation. So I'm learning constantly in addition to helping out with my roles and responsibilities. So I would say there's a good portion of the day, say the morning, I'm in meetings, shadowing, taking actions, helping keep our team moving forward with our business's goals. And then there's a couple hours in the middle of the afternoon where I'm working on, drafting work products that get flowed up to Lisa or her manager, our executive vice president of space, Rick Ambrose. Or sometimes, like today, I was drafting things that are going to get flowed up to our corporate team. They're going to stop and get reviewed at the space level, but then they'll get flowed up. So, and then there's a lot of kind of keeping tabs on people, pulling information from different people on our team, our program managers, our VPs of different market segments, making sure they're coordinated and that we're prepared for the various business rhythms that we have, like strategy reviews or financial reviews, program management reviews, just kind of keeping everything rolling from a top level of our line of business.
Yeah, that's cool. I feel like usually when people think about working in like some sort of aerospace industry, they forget there's so much like organization and so much management that has to go in to keep everything in progress and in check. So yeah, that shows how much work you guys have to do.
Yeah, my role in particular is really about keeping our team organized. So that's something that I do almost constantly throughout the day.
Okay, yeah. I'm sure it's a lot of work. It's kind of almost like your manager, teacher sort of person, just like watching over everyone. So yeah, that's cool. So what is your most exciting mission that you've kind of managed or oversaw, or task that you might have worked on in the past?
Well, there's so many. So in my role right now, I support the vice president and general manager of all of commercial civil space. So I get to see all and work with all the different programs that we have. Like we had one in October, I'm not sure if you saw, but OSIRIS-REx was a robotic spacecraft that went out to the near asteroid Bennu, touched down on the asteroid surface, grabbed a sample of the surface material, and is now going to be bringing it back to Earth, which is really cool. There were so many videos, and we had really great streaming throughout the entire event. So like that to me is like one of the most near-term really cool things that has happened. Before this role, I worked on the Orion program for 4.5 years in the propulsion team. So I think of Orion as like my spaceship, because that's how I started at Lockheed Martin. That's gearing up. There's several Orions in production right now, but the one for Artemis 1 is getting ready to get transferred over to NASA soon, and it's set to launch hopefully hopefully next year. So those are probably my two favorites right now.
Yeah, that's really cool and exciting that you get to work on all these amazing missions. I've heard of the projects that you were actually talking about. When I read about it, it's like so mind blowing that we could do so much with technology.
Yeah, really cool.
Yeah. So one day I'd also like to work in the space industry. So I've always wondered, I always ask this question to everyone who comes like to the interview, did you always imagine yourself in the job you're in today? Or did you have kind of like a change in passion or like some twists and turns in your journey?
My journey was very windy. So you mentioned in the beginning that I studied bioengineering in college. I actually wanted to be a doctor for a long time. So I pursued that. Both my parents are engineers. They worked in aerospace, but I wanted to do something different. So I studied bioengineering. I worked in biotech for about 3.5 years. Did some really cool things. But then I was needing a career change, and I was thinking back about all the things that had really inspired me, and I was able to see the last space shuttle launch, and that stood out to me as like one of the coolest things I had ever witnessed in my life. And so I decided to try to make the switch to aerospace, and it just worked out that I was able to get a position on the Orion program. So there was a lot of weaving around. I never saw myself in this position, even a year and a half ago before I applied for this specific role I was in. I never would have visualized myself in a role like this supporting the senior leadership team of commercial civil space. So I think you said that you wanted to hopefully work in aerospace someday. I think it's really just kind of, you got to have an idea of what makes you excited and what gets you like really like pumped up about, working on projects or things that are, maybe there's core values that are really important to you, and having that as like your roadmap, but then not having a set path of how to get somewhere. Even my manager, Lisa Callahan, the VPTM of commercial civil space, if you ask her about her career path, she'll tell you that she was always just, looking for the next role of something that she could learn. What's something new? What's something I haven't done before? And then she ended up here, right? So she didn't have a set path of, I want to do this in commercial civil space. How do I get there? It was more just like, how do I keep making sure that I'm continuously excited and driven and excited to go to work every day?
Yeah.
And so I would say that has happened to me as well. And so it has been really windy, but I've loved every position that I've been in.
Yeah, definitely. I've always hear people saying passion over like some sort of hard path that was like set by someone else. So definitely, I 100% believe in that. It's actually funny because I actually want to be a doctor, but in space. So when I first, before seventh grade, I was always into biology and like chemistry. I was always into the human body. And so when I was interested in space, I loved them equally. I couldn't try to pick what I wanted to be. In middle school, I was always like, oh, what am I going to be when I grow up? And I'm always like, this or that. But I never thought to combine them. And so recently, I've read a lot about space medicine and how you can do so much like biology work and human study, but about like how it impacts the human body, like how space can impact the human body in certain diseases. So that kind of fascinated me. And I was like, oh, wait, maybe this is like kind of the thing. So I definitely don't know if I'll be that when I grow up, but that's currently where I'm, planning to go with my interest in both space and biology. So yeah.
I think that's great. People grow and they change, and some you might, wake up in 5 years and be like, actually, I'm not really interested in space anymore. I just want to be a doctor. Who knows?
Yeah.
Just always being aware of that and allowing yourself to revector your path to be in line with whatever you're passionate about, because passions change.
Yeah, definitely. And I always think that space is one of those industry that's super like malleable almost. Like if you have a passion for space and something else, I feel like you can always weave it in, whether it be business, art, computer science, obviously, physics. Like literally, I feel like anything you can kind of combine into it. I mean, that's what I found. So I always like believe that space is for everyone, regardless of, what interest you have or if you don't think you're smart enough, because literally, everyone can be a part of any space mission.
Yeah, space is for everyone. I love that.
Yeah. Um, so my next question is, how early were your passions identified? I know obviously both of your parents were, working at NASA, so they've probably kind of fed you with all this like cool science and space information, and you loved biology too. So I mean, how early did you identify that you liked space?
Um, I think that's kind of a hard question to answer because I was just always around it. And it was just, I think I almost took it for granted. I was like, of course we can do all this really cool stuff in space because it was something I was surrounded with
It's like a part
my
of you.
entire life, right? Like
Mhm.
I, as a little kid, probably let's say earliest memories are like 5 or 6 years old. It would be like going to Johnson Space Center and driving past the Saturn V to pick up my dad and be like, oh yeah, that's the one of the
His
stations
mom.
people to the moon. It's just kind of it was a standard part of my life. And then my brother and I would always go to take your kids to work day, and we'd see all the different programs that Johnson Space Center and then Marshall Space Flight Center, where my dad transferred to, are working on. Meet all these people and just all the cool things that they were doing were just always something that we were interested in. And I think when you're surrounded by all of that excitement and passion and opportunity, you don't identify it the same way as maybe someone who wasn't surrounded by that, and then they discover it and they're like, oh my god, I'm so passionate about this. Because to us it was like, well, yeah. And then we'd have family conversations around dinner about, oh, did you hear about this black hole they just discovered? And it's just kind of like a normal part of our life.
Mhm.
And so I would say, from we could say like 5 or 6, like I've always been interested in what's out there and like what are the stars saying and why did those stars twinkle? And it was constant.
Yeah, I feel like practically every little kid when they hear about space or, black holes, it's like really fascinating. And I feel like if you hear about it, you automatically are drawn to it because I mean, we all live, in this world and we always want to know how we came upon or how Earth formed. So I think it's very cool. I feel like for everyone, it's fascinating. So as long as people have awareness and exposure, everyone would love space.
Yeah, there's so much out there, so much to learn about,
Yeah,
which I think is
definitely.
really exciting.
Yeah, for sure. Um, Were there any personal experiences for you that helped create by a passion in space industry apart from your parents? Like, for example, like an internship or maybe a teacher, anything in specific?
Um, I don't think, I mean, well, I mentioned that being able to see the last shuttle launch. So that was in July of 2011. That was the last launch before they retired the shuttle program. And I would say that memory stands out to me as something that is probably the catalyst for why I'm in this career and in this industry now. But aside from that, so I was actually homeschooled. So my
Okay.
teachers would be my parents. And so it was really just their, uh, their continuous discussions around it and encouragement of whatever I was interested in and all of the possibilities that space included. My favorite show when I was little was Nova on PBS. So
Mhm.
I could say that that also had an effect on me
Of
of just,
course.
science and learning. But I would say seeing Last Shuttle Launch was probably a big moment for me.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like live experiences help, but also like the media. So, for example, the books, the movies, the series, I feel like they actually help because earlier I was talking to another girl and I was like, how did you get into space? And she was like, through a movie that she watched, which was about like a mission to Mars. And it was just really funny to see how a movie could have such a big impact in the way people think and perceive things. So,
Yeah,
yeah, definitely, I think a movie or a series is a valid way to say that you got interest in
yeah,
space.
yeah.
So I've always asked, were there any obstacles for you to be in the job you're in today? Of course, everyone has obstacles, everyone has like that. But was there anything like that stood out to you maybe that gave you like a sort of a lesson that you'd like to share with everyone?
Um, Let me think. So, I mean, I would say, um, I struggled my first year of college, just coming from, I was homeschooled, right? So kind of just switching from that to having, you know,
Peers.
16 credits of classes and all this homework and being away from my family, and just it was a really different environment. I think it's different for people who go to normal brick and mortar schools too. But I struggled a lot with my first semester of chemistry and calculus. I had to retake calculus one. So it was really just kind of getting adjusted, and I had a lot of self-doubt at that point that I had to kind of overcome. I got some pep talks from my parents, and they were like, no, like you're not going to entirely switch your major and just back out because you had one failure. You're going to keep going. like we think you can do it. And so that was an obstacle for me. And then, I mean, I think as for being, a female in the male dominated industry, you're always kind of having to prove yourself a little bit differently than maybe some of your coworkers would have to, or counterparts. So that's just kind of omnipresent. But I would say I've always had really great advocates, especially since coming here to Lockheed Martin. And I feel like they have always helped me to excel in areas where I've needed that help or that push or that person to raise their voice and say, actually, Mary's a great person for this. So I think that there have been challenges, but I've always had someone to kind of encourage me to say I can do it in the end.
Yeah, I think motivation and a motivator is super important for every single person's life. And I feel like the message to never give up and to like follow your passion, don't let a failure impact you, because I feel like people who've constantly had like a successful life or like an easy childhood, suddenly when they're like, oh, I can't do physics, or oh, this is so hard, I don't understand like dynamics or something, like I feel like it's important for every single person to remember to calm down and like believe themselves and to not give up. I feel like that's a message that I've heard from every single person, so I definitely have to remember that for the future, to never ever give up.
Yeah, it's hard. It's easy to let yourself believe, if you fail once, then you can never do it. But the world doesn't work that way.
Exactly. And your other point, I almost forgot saying like how space is such a male dominated industry. I feel like it's also key to remember that, you don't self-doubt yourself and like know your self-worth and how you're important. And, maybe you're like smarter than 3/4 of the people there, if not like practically everyone. So it's just important to remember not to like doubt yourself just because you look different.
That's a great point. Yeah.
So what was key to becoming knowledgeable about the industry you decided to pursue? I'm assuming all the trips that you've had with your parents and discussions and conversations.
Yeah, I think that played a role, at least setting me up initially, and kind of continuously if something happens, we all talk about it in our family group chat. I mean, I would encourage everyone to continuously learn, read articles, read news sources that are relevant to whatever industry you're interested in. You can sign up for daily newsletters of just the highlights, and so you're always up to date. So I try to do that. I follow select people on Twitter, and I read articles from select news sources and blogs and places that are always kind of aggregating what's going on in aerospace. And I think it's important for anyone to always stay updated of what's going on. And so I started out with that. Kind of got some crash courses from my parents of what's going on in aerospace, and then just was always hungry to learn more. And so I've just been continuing to feed that hunger since I came here and started working in aerospace.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like keeping updated with the news, because I feel like every day, constantly, if I go on Twitter, I'm finding something completely new, or a new discovery, or a new moon, or like another asteroid they just got discovered. So everything is constantly changing. It's hard to keep updated. So definitely that's important. And to kind of like wrap things up, I kind of wanted to know your perspective on the current space industry in terms of like what excites you about the space industry and what kind of makes you nervous. And just like learn more about what you're the most excited about in the space industry.
Um, I am excited about a lot of things. We do a lot of really cool things here at Commercial Civil Space. I will say I am very excited about the upcoming Artemis 1 launch, and then landing the first woman on the moon. That
Yes.
is huge. I can't wait for that. That is probably the single, biggest item in my mind. I really can't wait for that to happen.
Yeah, same.
I think kind of watching how lunar exploration grows over the next, decade is going to be really exciting. To kind of see how that changes everything as we have more new entrants in the in the civil space field and aerospace. Things are changing up there in space. We're starting to have to think about things differently. And so I think just kind of watching that and how that grows is going to be really exciting. I'm excited to have people go back to the moon with all the technology of our generation, right? The last time people were on the moon, the computer chip on the Apollo spaceship had less computing power than our phones. And so like we're going to have the ability to stream and see what's going on and talk to them and see all this stuff that we could never see before. And we just have so much more capabilities now, which is going to be huge. I'm also really excited for OSIRIS-REx to bring back that sample and kind of see what was on the asteroid Bennu.
Yeah.
Because that is going to provide insight into like what the building blocks were potentially for life here on Earth. And that is going to be huge because I still am really interested in biology and life and all of that, how it ties into space. Those are probably some of my, probably my top 3 biggest excitements. But landing the first woman on the moon is huge for me.
Yeah, definitely agree. I'm so excited for that. I feel like women are slowly starting to get into space. And I feel like there was a study that I actually read earlier saying how women are actually probably more fit for space and space travel because they're also lighter. And it's just like the biological effects for women are less severe than men. And it was like a recent study. So I obviously feel like we're starting to understand how like women actually could be, more useful for space. And, we're kind of like not taking that into consideration. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Another thing personally that I'm really excited for, like you said, was life in space. I've heard that people think that Earth is going to become like Mars soon, and they think that, there was life on Mars. What do you think about that? What is like your opinion?
I think that those are, some really great theories that are out there. I think that once we can get people to Mars and we can start doing more experiments out there, it's going to provide us all this information to help us understand what happened there and help us, take care of our own planet and our own climate. So I think that the knowledge that we gain from exploring space, especially all these other bodies in our solar system, we're going to be able to take that back and apply that to help benefit humanity here on Earth, and that is huge.
Definitely. I feel like that you kind of answer like a controversial question. People have always said, why do you invest in space instead of investing in climate action here on Earth? But I feel like exactly what you were saying is the technology that we actually gain from doing space exploration and the knowledge we gain actually could help us a lot here on Earth to kind of like stop or slow things down. So I think that's definitely a good point. And it also reminds me, I was just about to say something about Mars, about life, and I completely forgot right now. But oh yeah, I remember rovers. So there's also using artificial intelligence in rovers to, to better understand the environment of Mars, because obviously humans going to Mars is a lot harder than, robots going. So I definitely am excited for that aspect of the project as well. So what are your concerns for the space industry?
Um, I'm always so I was raised by NASA engineers. Grew up on the Orion program. I'm always really concerned about the safety of our astronauts that we're putting out into space. I think that so that's always a concern, just the human element for me. I think space trash is another issue that I haven't really figured out a great path forward on yet. So those are like for me personally, those are like the 2 big issues that weigh on my mind when I think about all the cool stuff that we're doing in the space industry. Yeah, I think that's how I would answer that.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like right now we're making a lot of progress, but we have to be, wary of all the problems that we could be causing and like side effects and consequences that we're not really thinking through. So definitely that's something that we need to think about more. So thank you so much, Ms. Pope, for this wonderful interview. I honestly thought I gained like a new perspective, a new view, and I think your message for everyone about not giving up and persevering and believing in oneself, even if they think they look different from everyone else, is really, really important. And I want to thank you so much for spending your time to, give and communicate this powerful message to everyone to trust themselves. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It was really great to meet you.
Thank you. Bye.